Okay, in nutshell, I'll tell you what the question is like. It's like, what's the advantage of Java? Okay, if it's platform independent, what's the advantage of Java? And especially, what's the advantage to use it with Selenium? Okay, so in Java, if you look at your Eclipse, okay, I had been making all these files, right? If you go to the physical location where your project is lying, there will be a bin and there will be a source folder. Okay, in the source folder you will see all the Java files which you made. In the bin folder, you will see class file corresponding to the Java file. This is made by Java. Okay, if you open this class file, you will not be able to understand it. Okay, now this class file is platform independent. That means even if I pick up this class arrays example.class and put this class file on a Unix machine, this will execute. If I put this is like an executable file. Okay, if I put this sample java class.class on a, say, this is Windows Server 2003 operating system, my operating system. If I put this on Windows 7, this will operate properly. Or if I put this on Linux or some other operating system, this will work because Java is a platform independent language. Okay, now regarding your question, regarding the browsers have got nothing to do with platform independence. If I am on 2003 server, then I have got these many browsers on my machine. Same browsers will also be there on Linux machine. Same browsers will also be there on Windows 7 machine. Okay, so if I am writing a Java file, .java file, suppose this is my Java file, and instead of this array, I had written some Selenium code which was opening Mozilla Firefox. Okay, which was just opening Mozilla Firefox, and if I would have executed it, okay, then in all the operating systems that code would have executed and it would have opened Mozilla Firefox in all the operating systems. So operating systems are different, but we can have the same browsers in various operating systems. Okay, so if we are writing Selenium code to test application in IE and we write it in one particular operating system, if we shift the code to another operating system, then again the same code can be used to test the application on IE, provided IE is present on that operating system. Okay. Satish, is this clear or?
Yeah, this is clear. This is clear. So I think I might have confused between browser independent and platform independent. That's fine.
Yes. Browsers are same on all the operating systems.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now, going forward, about the two-dimensional array. This is very important because the whole data-driven concept is based on this. The very first day, actually yes, it's the very first day we lay the foundation of the data-driven framework. Okay, so please listen to this carefully. Okay, if I make an object array, two-dimensional object array like this. This is the syntax. You specify the rows, number of rows as 3, columns as 4. Or 2 rows, 3 columns. Let's keep it short. So it's something like this. We have to first specify the rows. And then the columns. Okay, number of rows will be equal to number of times you want to execute the test. Okay, suppose I'm executing a login test, which is logging me in my application, and I'll write 3 rows. So I can write the first row like this: ARR 0th row, 0th column. The value is, suppose, username 1. 0th row, second column. The value is password 1. So this is my first set of data. Again, in second row, I can give the second set of data like this: key 1 1 and suppose username 2 and password 2. Then again, third row, two, third row will be username 3, password 3. Okay, so first, second and third rows can be like this. So when we practically work with Selenium, we'll make this object array. Okay, and we will keep different rows for different types of executions for the same test. Generally, we will not hard code the data. The data will be read from some external source like an XML file or an Excel file. Okay, right? Now this is very simple concept about arrays, about basics of Java language, about two-dimensional arrays, how two-dimensional arrays are practically used, right? Okay. Now I will go forward and hold on. Let me think if I'm missing something. Right. Okay. I'll go forward and I will start with like concept of objects. Okay. Concept of objects in Java. Okay, so basically I am starting with object-oriented programming. Fine. I'll make a new class. Say, for example, I make the class as house. Okay, house.java. A very simple example. Fine, and inside this house.java, I declare a variable called int rooms. A very simple thing. Okay, this is the house class and there is a variable in it called int rooms. No main function, nothing. I cannot run house class. Okay, I will get an error if I try to run house.java. If I right click on it, select the option run as, I will not get the option run as Java program. I cannot run this because this is not got the main function. All the programs which have the main function can execute themselves. Right? So about house.java, if I make a new class called test house. Now listen to this carefully. In this I am going to make the object of house class. How do you make the object? Okay, you write like this in Java, new house. This is the very basics of object oriented programming. In the main function I am writing new house. That means I am creating the object of this class. If I am writing new house, in this 3 times, then I'll create 3 objects. So what exactly is an object? Why am I doing this? How will it help me out? Okay, and especially in Selenium, what will be the usage, right? So all these questions might be coming in your mind. Just be patient, all of them will be answered. When I write new house 3 times, then in the memory, 3 objects are made, right? And in my house.java, what did I have? I have a variable called rooms. Okay, so in all the 3 objects, I will have a variable called rooms present with the default value of 0 because it's not initialized. Okay, but I cannot access these objects. Okay, to access these objects, you need to you can say you need to create the instance of these. You need to give a reference for these objects. Okay, I have to write like this: house h1 equals to new house. House h2 equals to new house. House h3 equals to new house. So when I write like this, okay, guys, this is very important. People, even Java developers having 5-6 years of experience, they don't know this stuff. Okay, this is very basic, but it is very strong concept. Okay, so 3 objects are formed: h1, h2, h3 will be 3 references to those objects. It looks simple because I am making it simple. If you pick up any book on Java, you will not get this concept. Okay, over a period of years I have learned it, so I am telling you in a very practical way. Alright, so now h1, h2 and h3 are 3 references to the house object. Fine. If I write h1 dot rooms 100 and h2 dot rooms 200, you can assign the rooms like this: h3 dot rooms 300. Okay, to all the houses I have assigned rooms. Fine. Now if you do like this, then what happens is that in the memory, the first house will have number of rooms as 1, the second will have as say 100, 200 and 300. Okay, I am telling you this because in Selenium as well we make objects. Okay, let me open one more workspace. I'll show you some Selenium code so that you can relate it. Let it open. Fine. Now if I write system.out.println h1.rooms and h2.rooms and h3.rooms, if I run this, this will print 100, 200, 300. The concept is class is same, but in memory I am kind of doing a virtualization. I am creating 3 objects of the same class, and variable is 1, but it's got 3 values in 3 different objects. Okay, now in the next line if I write h1 equals to h2, now out here people they get a little bit confused. Okay, there's nothing to confuse. Right, so out here you have to, what will happen, h1 will move away from this and it will start pointing to h2. So this object is not accessible. This is gone. This is hanging in the memory now. Okay, so if I write the same statements out here now, and if I run the code, H1 and H1 will print the number of rooms same as number of rooms of H2. That means H1 dot rooms will also print 200 here. Earlier it was printing 100. So when you run this, see, right now if I write out here H1 dot rooms equals to 500. Okay, what I have done is H1 has modified the number of rooms in this object, right? So out here what will come out here will be 500. So H1 and H2 will retrieve the latest value 500 from the object. So if I run this code and if I run this again, it will print 500. So this is the difference. In interviews they ask you the question, what is the difference between object and object reference? Okay, this is the object. To access the object we have got object references. The object references can move from one object to another object. Okay, so this is a very simple program with just house.java, one variable, but a very strong concept. Okay, so let me show you the practical working code in Selenium, right? How this is used. Don't try to run this code at your pace. You won't have Selenium configured on your machine, so you will be a little bit confused. Okay, for example, I have this class known as Firefox driver in Selenium. Okay, I'll just delete everything. I'll show you. I have a class called as Firefox driver in Selenium. So when you write the Selenium code, you write it like this in Java. This is an internal class made by people who made Selenium. For example, in my project, I made a class like this, right? I made a class called house.java. Yeah, I made this class called house.java. Analogous to this class, somebody who made Selenium made a class called Firefox driver. I create the object of this class. So when I create the object, I just created the object of this class. If I run this, a blank Firefox window opens up. Fine. So by just creating the object of Firefox driver, I am able to open a blank Firefox window. So this is how you make objects, right? Now with the help of D1 object, I can do anything with Firefox. If I write D1 dot get HTTP gmail.com, this browser will navigate to Gmail. Get is a function inside Firefox driver. Okay, I'll talk about these functions. Don't get confused. Okay, forget about the second line. Okay, forget about it. Similarly, I can keep on creating any number of objects of this Firefox driver class. The first object, I can make it work on yahoo.com. The second object can open a Firefox and I can navigate that Firefox browser to gmail.com. So two different objects will be made in the memory, two different Firefox browsers will be opened, and both the browsers will go to different locations, right? If I run this, this will just open two different blank browsers right now. You see that? This is the first browser, this is the second browser, right? So two browsers were opened. Okay. Similarly, for Chrome, we have something known as Chrome driver. You can make the object of Chrome driver and Chrome browser will open up. Okay. I'll tell you about Chrome driver. I'll tell you in detail. It's got some special settings which you have to do. Okay, I'm not talking about it right now. Okay, I'll talk about these drivers and all everything tomorrow in detail. I'll talk about them. Right, let's come back to our object-oriented exercise. Right, so I have this house.java. Okay, house.java has a variable called int rooms. Okay, and in my test house, I assigned various values to these rooms. Fine. Now, what all house is got? We can create another variable. Okay, another variable like say in maximum power, just a hypothetical situation, consumption limit equals to some number. Okay, that every house has a maximum power consumption limit of this much. Right, now the thing is, this variable has got a constant value, and this variable's constant value is constant for all the objects of the house class. These two variables are different. Every house can have different number of rooms. Okay, but every house will have the same maximum power consumption limit. I am talking about the maximum limit. Fine. So if I go to my test house, out here I can change that value. I can write h1 dot maximum power consumption equals to 2000, which is illegal. This is illegal. I shouldn't be able to do it. Any object should not be able to change the value of this variable because this is constant. This is something by law that every house has got this limit. So the variables which we don't want to change, the variables for which we want the value should remain remain same. They should have the modifier final in front of. If I write final in front of a variable, nobody can change its value. But I have to initialize that variable. Otherwise, I will get an error. You see that I get an instant error that the blank field final max power consumption may not have been initialized. You have to initialize final fields, but once you initialize them, nobody can change them. If I go to my test house now, I will get an error. So final fields, they cannot be changed. Okay. Now if I have to find the power consumption of all the three houses, then I'll have to write system.out.println h1 dot max power consumption limit, h2 dot max power consumption, h3 dot max power consumption limit. So this is weird. We all know that for all the three, the value will be same. h1 and h2 and h3 references are not setting the value of that variable. The value will be same, 1000, 1000 and 1000. You see that? h1 and h2 and h3 have got no rights to change this variable, and all of them have the same value. So it makes no sense for us to access this variable with the help of object, because this variable is constant. It's a part of an object. Obviously it's a part of an object, but it makes no sense to keep it as a part of an object because it is same for all the objects. So the variables which are same for all the objects, we make them static. Diagrammatically, this was the diagram, right? Every house had rooms The rooms were having different values. Now every house has a maximum power consumption limit. Okay, so what we do, we take that variable, keep it at a common memory location and access the variable from that memory location, rather than keeping individual copy of that variable into the object. There is no use because the value is not dependent on the reference. Reference cannot change the values, right? So such a variable we call it static. So static variables, they are not the part of an object. So if I go to test.house.java, I will get a warning message over here. See, I have made maximum power consumption as static. Okay, so because of that, I am getting a warning in my test house that static field should not be accessed in this way, basically. Okay, you can access it, but the best way is that I'll just print it, system.out.println accessing static. Static is not the part of an object, it's at a common memory location. So you can write system.out.println the name of the class dot the static variable name, that is max power consumption limit. So the static stuff can be accessed directly with the name of the class dot the variable name. You cannot access non-static like this. I cannot write house dot rooms like this, because rooms, every house will have a different room, different number of rooms. Which house am I talking about? Right? I'll get an error here because this is non-static and this is static. So static is something which is common for all the objects. Okay, so this is house.java. Max power consumption is same for all the houses in the society. So that's why maybe make it static, and we can directly access it by the class name dot the static variable. Okay. Now similarly, if I have a variable like say int max people, the maximum number of people which can stay in a particular house. Now again, this is not dependent on the object. Okay, this is a rule that only 4 people can stay in a house, only 5. So if I make it static, then it will never be the part of an object. So I can define from here that house dot max people equals to 10,000. So what will happen? This is a rule that maximum number of people in the house can be 10,000. If I try to print system.out.println h1.max people, h2.max people, h3.max people. If I run this, it will print 10,000 for all 3 of them. Or let me put a big number. Oh, right. You see that? After that, suppose I write house dot max people equals to 9999, and I again print this. Although you should not access static with the help of object, but I am just telling you an example. If you print this, you will get all the 3 houses have this max limit. So static is not the part of an object and non-static is the part of an object. Out here we have got 2 static variables, and out here we have got 2 non-static variables. Okay, right? This is very important concept. This is very basic. If people they get confused in this, okay, then they are stuck in Selenium. So when you are making a framework which is having 50 Java files, which is having 10 utility functions, which is having JUnit, you need to generate reports and all this, that. And if you don't have the concept of the static and non-static not clear with you, you will never be able to make that framework. Never ever. Okay, so start with the basics. That's why I always do that. Right? So now, right.